are on time.
Yeah, so this is an experiment. Just to give you a bit of a background, there is a virtual coaching initiative project group, some CECs with the ScrumAlliance who have been working for a few months on ideas. You might have noticed that the content about coaching is increasing on the website. There have been webinars hosted by the ScrumAlliance, by us. And this is a new experiment that we're starting to record sessions of online coaching in a variety of different formats. So tomorrow, Brock Argue he's from the US or from Canada, I'm actually not sure. I know his time zone.
He's from Calgary.
Calgary, that was actually on my mind, but I wasn't sure. So I didn't want to say something wrong. And Calgary is in Canada, right?
I've heard that it is. I hope so, because I'm flying there tomorrow.
Okay, cool. I'm European. I can be ignorant about places I've not been yet. Okay, so he's running a session tomorrow, and his session will be very small with 5 people. And we set a limit to 25 because we wanted to experiment with a bigger group. Now we are about a dozen. Since everybody has the link, they might be able to join. Would anybody prefer that I lock the room when we start? There's an option for me to do that so that other people can't get in anymore. That might increase the safety. And we don't know what happens to the people who are late. I think they would still get the recording. So would anybody like me to do that? Okay, if you don't, I'll just keep it open. Zoom, it's very good that you're all muted now, because specifically with larger groups, larger than 10, voice tends to get feedback and noise starts to get in, and then everybody is difficult to understand. So keep yourself muted when you're not talking. Zoom has a beautiful option to split people into groups. So one thing that we'll do soon, to have a quick option for everybody to talk, to have you introduce yourselves to each other, talk about what kind of leadership challenge you would like to bring into the call. That will work like that. I will tell the software to split you into groups of 3. We'll randomly put you into groups of 3, and then each of you is going to see a request. You have been invited into a breakout room. You click a button, and then the software kind of closes and reopens, and you'll be with 2 other people in another room. And after 5 minutes, I'll tell you to come back, which in that room will then tell you the host has invited you to come back to the main room, and then there will be a countdown of 60 seconds during which you can choose to come back, and at the end of the 60 seconds, you will be brought back by the software. That's one nice aspect of this thing. So our intention is that we can coach you. Maybe we can even coach each other, depending on how this goes and how your experience and contribution is, on potentially 2 or 3 topics, I assume. Given that the group now is smaller than I assumed, because 25 people could sign up, it could have been twice as many people. My idea for selecting a good topic to start with is that we split you up into groups of 3. I'm just counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it'd be 1 pair and 2 groups of 3. And in that pair, or in that triad, you have 5 minutes to first introduce yourself, second, to share what leadership challenge you would like to talk about in a session, and third, to decide in that group which of the 2 or 3 topics do you want to bring to the big group. So we have 5 minutes of breakout rooms and then 5 minutes to share the 3 topics, and potentially then enough time to address all of them. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I would like to add something there. Yeah, that the leadership challenge that you choose should be a real challenge for someone of the ones in the group. Yeah, It's not about a challenge that someone else has, but a personal challenge about leadership in an agile context.
Could it be something, Martin, where I am a coach in an organization and my challenge is a leadership challenge of somebody else? So I have a challenge with coaching somebody through a leadership challenge because I'm working with an executive, for instance?
That would work, also.
Okay. Good. Any questions before we break out? 3, 2. Does everybody know how to unmute themselves? How could you say if you don't know how to unmute yourself?
Yeah, we can unmute ourselves now. There's a button in the bottom left corner with a microphone. If you press it, you will be unmuted. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people still mute. Saeed, Bikam, Nata, Majela, and Masood. You can unmute. Okay. Nata, it's okay.
So it's beautiful from this perspective how more and more of you show up, so to say. Thank you. Okay, we'll assume that everybody is good with that. I can't talk. I'm a little sick. That's okay. So Mayela, you will just observe, and that's okay.
Yeah. So let's go into the split mode.
Yes. Okay. Martin, will you stay here with me so you ignore the invitation to join room number 3?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. Everybody else gets an invite now. Okay, so we have
5 minutes, right?
2 people here, 3 people there. Yes, I need to set the timer.
Okay.
So, Martin, who are you and what brought you here?
Okay. My name is Martin. Martin, but nobody knows me as Diego, not even myself. So I recognize myself as Martin. I'm a coach since 2005. And in the last years, I've been involved in executive coaching, especially focused on agile transitions, agile transformations or evolutions in different organizations. And I work in Clear, which is a Latin America company. I'm Argentinian right now. I'm in Buenos Aires at the moment. And what about you, Olaf?
I'm Olaf Lewitz. I'm an Agile coach, or well, I'm a certified enterprise coach with the ScrumAlliance. That probably qualifies me as an Agile coach. I don't market myself as that anymore. I'm in Berlin, Germany. Have been for 15 years now. Wow. I was not born in Berlin, but I've spent most of my life here in the meantime. I started Agile in '99 when the XP blog was started on the C2.com wiki, where they started developing the things that later showed up in the book. And a colleague of mine and I were reading that and thinking, wow, finally somebody is writing down how software development actually works. And that was cool. And in 2000, I got a chance to actually introduce XP to a company in Germany, one of the first. So that's how long I've been doing this stuff. Hi, welcome. We have split in breakout rooms. Would you like to join a room? Or wait until the others come back in about 3 minutes?
Sí, vámonos pues.
Okay. And what's your relationship to the Martin to the ScrumAlliance and to the enterprise coaching thing and to this experiment? What are you hoping to learn?
Well, my relationship with the ScrumAlliance is it? My relationship with the ScrumAlliance. I'm currently a certified enterprise coach and a certified Scrum trainer for the ScrumAlliance, and I've been involved in the certified enterprise coach back when it was the certified Scrum coach community, both on facilitating coaching clinics or organizing coach retreats, and on the group that reviews applications. And we've been doing an experiment also with Olaf during last part of last year and this very first part of the year about mentoring candidates for CECs. And now the idea is to help people understand what coaching is and get a first-hand impression about it. And the best way to do it that I can think about is to do it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You can't explain coaching. You can only experience it. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's and this is the first time that I'm doing a live coaching that will be kept online and in a video fashion for everyone to see. So a public online coaching, and I think there's a lot of things to learn. Many of them that I still don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I also hope to learn something new today. And I noticed that I'm dark. I need to change how I sit and maybe some light here. Does this work better? Yes.
Better, yeah.
Yeah, what drives me here is also raising the understanding and the awareness of what coaching is, how coaching works for coaches and for potential clients of coaches alike. We noticed in reviewing applications that there's a big diversity in what people mean when they talk about coaching, especially when they talk about agile coaching. And we have a very specific expectation from the certification of coaches' point of view. And that we need to grow awareness and knowledge in the community about that. And then we have a lot of market for Scrum trainings as the ScrumAlliance. And we also have a lot of the very best agile coaches in the world in our certified team and certified enterprise coaches groups. But 5 minutes are over. I'll invite people to come back. All participants have been given 60 seconds to leave their breakout rooms. Great. And we also notice, and I hear that a lot from other coaches, when we go into organizations and they've hired us as agile coaches, they expect us to advise, they expect us to consult, they expect us to tell us what to do. And we have a hard time actually being coaches and actually explain to the clients what coaching means. So one of the potential outcomes of this experiment is that we grow the awareness of clients of what agile coaching actually is and what benefit coaching can bring. And that coaching can also be available to you when you don't leave your home or have somebody fly to your office for a day or 2 or 3, which is obviously very expensive and might be out of your reach. And people are coming back. Welcome.
Welcome back, everyone.
I love this concept that you can have breakout rooms. Like that makes this way better than GoToMeeting and Skype.
Yeah, that's really
cool. That's why we're doing it. Could we have a quick round of everybody just sharing where they are from and what your primary role is in your work, your relationship to Scrum? Are you a Scrum Master? Are you a coach? Are you a manager? How are you affected? How are you interested? And then we'll go to the top top challenges that you identified in your groups and see where we want to start with. Okay.
I'll get started. I'm Nanda Singh. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, sunny Florida on the East Coast. I used to be a Scrum Master. I'm currently a program consultant, trying to help a large-scale transformation project, which is more digital transformation, but trying to inject Agile into the implementation so we can get things done better, hopefully faster. So cool. I am playing a external consultant role in the
Okay.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I am in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I actually work for the state, and I am the Scrum Master and Director of Strategic Planning for our registration protocols. So for the last year and a half, we've been using Agile Scrum methodology to decrease our wait times and process technology improvements. We're replacing our core system and use Scrum methodology to do the procurement. So we were done in 6 weeks as opposed to 6 months, which was pretty cool. And our biggest challenge for me is being one of the few certified Scrum Masters and using it across multiple departments where we also use an enterprise process model as well as a hierarchy model at the same time. So trying to get people to work together on teams that don't necessarily report to each other and limited resources being a state agency.
Okay. In the spirit of keeping time of introduction short and for the coaching long, can we limit this to 2 breaths? So 1 breath to introduce yourself and 1 breath to say what you work on.
Sure. So my name is John. I work in Los Angeles as an Agile coach.
Thank you. That was really quick. And good morning.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I am in Texas, and I am an Agile and culture coach for a small e-learning.
Thank you.
Hi, myself is Nishant. I'm from India, and I work as an Agile coach for a consulting company in India.
Yes, thank you, and good night. Must be very late where you are.
Yes, yeah, just another 40 minutes to midnight.
Yes, I'm Jahid. I'm from Bangladesh. My official designation is Senior System Analyst, but in team I am working as a Scrum Master.
Thank you.
I am Raquel. I live in London, and I work as a business analyst as primary role.
Thank you. I've this map in my head where points are lighting up on different places. Wow. It's amazing how far away you all are, or we all are.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Marjan. I'm joining from Toronto, Canada, and I'm Agile Coach Transition, acting under the organization of manager, technical manager. And right now we are doing the transition, have done part of our department. The rest is already under in the mode.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Since you're not proceeding in the order
Martin?
which you're on my screen, who's still missing?
Hi Olaf. I'm Mark Johnny from Merida, Venezuela. I'm a Scrum Master, and I have a software company. Here I am looking for I am Scrum Master and in ScrumAlliance and product owner. I have a company with 10 developers. My great challenger is to looking for new companies or startups and try to get the agile benefits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bienvenido. Okay.
Okay. Have we heard from everyone?
I think
Hi, my name is Eli. I'm from Lebanon, and I'm a software engineer.
Hi, Eli.
Hi, Eli.
Hi.
Wow, so many different places. So in your groups, what were the topics that you agreed to bring to the room? What are the most important things you would like to work on first?
I have a question. I'm not sure how is the expertise of other coaches here, but since I'm relatively new coach starting with an enterprise like under a year, there's so many times that I'm asking from senior managers that even though I'm coaching them for transition, but still there are like the enterprise mindset. They're asking me for the Scrum blueprints, like the next year planning things, those things that are not really discussed in Agile development framework. Those are the challenges I'm facing so much. Another thing is really something painful is that even though we go user story points, all the estimation techniques, but at the end of the day, they say what we understand is hours. Give us a way to have hours, which I don't really like that. So those are the type of things I'm still challenging with my coaching techniques, just to change the mindset and culture.
Okay. It was Marjan, right? Because my screen didn't light up who was speaking.
That's great. It's me, Marjan.
Marjan, okay. All right. So that will be one topic, and we can either start with that for a while and then seek for another one, or just see if there is any other one and keep those in mind and start working on one of them.
So we had at least 2 groups. So,
hey, John and Michelle, you guys can pick the topic. I was interested in both your topics, so it's up to you guys.
Go ahead,
John,
Michelle. I think you and I both had similar topics in terms of communication and transformation issues.
Sure, mine was more trying to help the rest of the teams in a larger state agency understand why Agile Scrum can be helpful, and we've also kind of have had to make it our own based on resources and limited number of people. But I actually think, John, your topic could actually help me, I think, too, in the idea of starting out with small Scrum teams and then Scrum teams becoming so large too. So that might be, I think, probably more beneficial for the larger group.
Yeah, the issue that currently facing is over the last 5 years since we first adopted Scrum, through projects, our teams have just grown. Some of our largest Scrum teams now are about 50 to 60. I'd say most of them are probably in the 20 to 30 range, which really doesn't make them Scrum teams. So we're trying to decompose those teams and starting to scale. But from the transformation perspective, and a lot of people have already touched upon, the senior management's buy-in or lack thereof has been a challenge.
Okay, I didn't get clearly the challenge.
So
Did you allow?
communication and senior management buy-in on Scrum, being agile, and then specifically in my case, scaling as the teams have grown.
Okay, so it would be like senior manager not buying agility, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for our group, we actually didn't quite get to a selected topic either, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, at least 1 or 2 of ours related to what was just brought up. Would you guys say that's right, Sahi? That leadership buy-in was pretty close to that one?
So when leadership buy-in is just such a general topic, then I think it's a good one to pick, but we need to pick one person that is ready to be coached on this so that they can have a specific situation in mind. Probably everybody else can still learn a lot from it, but otherwise we end going around in circles of generic considerations instead of actually making progress in a specific challenge. So who would like to start?
I actually have a specific one that's actually less Agile related, but it's actually a specific leadership coaching issue. So I'm working with a relatively young, inexperienced C-level leader, and in a small company, but not as small as it once was. So there was one time, that the company was 20 people, and it was really easy for her to just say, here, go do this, run and go do this. And now we're at closer to 60 people, and we're, making this transition. And she's supportive of the transition, but doesn't understand her own influence. And so she doesn't understand that when she sometimes offers an opinion, other people take it as an edict. At the same time, she is insecure about her experience, so giving her feedback is often a very delicate thing. So the main challenge is helping her to understand her influence and how it affects our Agile transition.
Great. I think this is a very good second topic. It's definitely different, and it's also definitely common. At least I have encountered this personally, and to be honest, from both sides. I became a leader in such an organization when I was almost 30, and I got also kind of promoted or pushed into that situation by the way the system developed. And suddenly I found myself to be a boss with no idea how to do that. So I can relate to that very well from that side as well. So John, you said you have a specific situation with the leadership buy-in, management buy-in.
Yeah, I can give a couple specific examples of some recent conversations I had. So in a recent meeting with the senior management team, when I was presenting some concepts in terms of scaling and transformation, one manager said, we tried this at a previous company. He used to work at Nordstrom's. And they did it for a few years and it didn't work, and they scrapped it. They felt that it was a major waste of time, especially bringing everybody into large meetings to do planning and retrospectives. So they completely scrapped Scrum or trying to be Agile. Another manager specifically said that they don't have the luxury of stopping what they're working on now in terms of their project deliveries to focus or improve their Scrum and Agile processes. And they don't see any time in the near future where they can make that a priority or an emphasis because of their deadlines and deliverables.
So when they are saying things like they don't have the luxury of time and it hasn't worked in a previous company, what would you like to have happen?
I want them to understand the importance. As a part of my responsibilities and as a part of the PMO, we collect the retrospective data and we analyze that, especially what the teams are saying, and we do occasional surveys and things like that. And I travel to our various offices to talk with the Agile delivery teams down there. And so we know these issues are real. We know these issues are persistent. The same pain points that are being mentioned in the retrospectives, the exact same ones are being mentioned 6 months ago, a year ago, and they're fairly consistent. And we presented this data to the senior management team. But I guess, from their perspective, they just don't see the value or the importance of addressing it. They'd rather deal with the high turnover or the low morale, as long as they're meeting deadlines and things of that nature, since the company does put emphasis on that.
So the company does deliver on their deadlines. You do get the product out the door in time.
Yeah, so the quality is probably a lot lower than it should be. So we have that issue that I think goes hand in hand. But yeah, I'd like to see management take a better emphasis in the overall morale of the dev group rather than continue to push work and requests down their throat until they're ready to break.
John, what might be the improvement that you think there would be if the senior management attend and take care of these issues?
The immediate impact would be in team morale. We had a compliance issue that a majority of the teams have been working on since July. Majority of the teams have worked anywhere between about 60 to 80-hour work weeks since. Management has offered them 3-day weekends in the month to try to offset that. Needless to say, turnover has been extremely high. And yeah, every KPI has, from a development standpoint, has gone down incredibly. So yeah, it's just been challenging. I'm sorry, I kind of lost your question there.
Yeah. Is there any? The question was about what might be the impact of the senior management taking care of this issue. You mentioned team morale at the first time. Is there any others?
Improved quality. Obviously we see a dramatic drop off in quality from devs that are working at an unsustainable pace. And typically when we do push our new features into production, we'll get anywhere between typically 20 to 40 production incidents, sometimes major ones where the system's offline. And this has been pretty consistent for the last few months.
Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick, John?
Sure.
When and with whom did the Agile initiative start? If you're having struggle with buy-in, did they just, sorry, let me start with that. When and with whom did the Agile initiative start?
Started 5 years ago with my director, who I was initially working with on this. He had a tremendous project management background to the point that they've shipped him off to London back in November to help out a team there, and he'll be working out of London from November to August. So essentially for the last 4 or 5 months, been handling this initiative by myself.
See, John, is one of your concerns that it's really chaotic? Because I've had that in the past when I always feel like, oh, this should be so easy. Why are we making this so chaotic? Do you ever think about it like that? I feel like that's something at the back of your head is like, this should be so easy and we should be really zooming along, but why make it so chaotic because of all these issues that you're talking about? Is that a concern from your end? Like, that keeps me awake for the most part. I'm like, this shouldn't be this difficult. But
yes and no. More so, as I meet with the teams or reach out to them on things that are coming out from their retrospectives, that we can help out at an enterprise level. The overall feel is save us, help us. We're this dev team that's drowning under work and there's no end in sight, and we need to be saved, and we don't necessarily have a voice to our senior managers where we could express those concerns in a safe environment. So that's why, it kind of bubbles up to us, and then it's our kind of responsibility, or my responsibility, to bring that to the senior management. But whenever that happens, it kind of gets brushed aside. So in some part, feeling the chaos, but more so it's a concern for the well-being of these developers that we work with.
I'd like to pause for a bit and just step out of the conversation and reflect on the things that just happened from my perspective, and how that is or not is coaching. So one very simple thing for me when I ask questions as a coach is to check before I ask the question, who needs the answer? Is it me being interested in the answer, or is it interesting for the client to explore the answer? So is it something I don't know, or is it something they don't know? If it's something I don't know, I usually do not ask the question because it doesn't help the client, it just helps us. And it's when we hear a story that is resonating with our own experience and we feel with John because we've been in similar situations and we empathize, then getting into the story is very alluring. It's great. It feels good if we share stories like this. And that's a beautiful thing to do. Storytelling and story sharing is probably the most human thing we can do. And it's not coaching. So when we get him to share his story, that's lovely for us as an entertainment and as a trust building exercise. And it has lots of valuable aspects. And it doesn't help him move forward in his situation at all. Or at least it's very unlikely. So when we coach, we want to ask questions that help him explore his options and ideally identify options he couldn't see before because he didn't have that perspective. So when Martin asked, you can explain your own question better than I can. So hand over to you. Okay.
And one thing that I would like to add to what just was said by Olaf is that I don't know if you identified the first part of the answer of John to the last question was yes and no. And when there's something that, and why he said saying yes and no, basically that's an answer to a closed question. Yeah? And there are two things we need to pay attention at when we are coaching. One is try to avoid as much as possible closed questions, because when we ask open questions, we have the client have more opportunity to explore his beliefs and his own experience. And the second one is that if we get too much no's, there's a trust relationship and a confidence relationship that can start to break. And if we definitely break the relationship we have with our clients in a coaching session, he will close himself. Okay, so just to take that as an observation. My question about the impact of senior manager not paying attention to the issues was about, I would like to understand why is this an issue for you, John?
As I mentioned earlier, yeah, so a lot of the developers on the team are coming to me directly with their concerns, and they don't feel like it's being addressed through their manager, or they don't feel safe in mentioning these topics to their manager. They don't feel like they have the option to say no when their manager's coming to them with new user stories, mid sprints, new requests, that need an off the top of the head type of estimate, and just accept it and move forward. So they're looking for ways for that to stop. Whether that be us teaching them techniques directly, or us working with their senior management to help the senior management understand that that's not okay, or that's not an Agile practice, and we want to try to be Agile, for the obvious benefit gains in terms of engagement, productivity, quality, so on and so forth.
Okay, and when people are coming to you with their concerns and they don't feel heard by senior manager, or they don't feel safe speaking to manager, why is this an issue for you?
Because I care about these individuals. I work with them, I see them, and I want to help. I know there's a better way of doing things. I know it doesn't have to be like this. So, you know, just trying to get people on both sides of the table so they can have a better relationship moving forward. And overall, as a company, we can start making better commitments. We can start delivering higher quality, and we can start being more productive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. What do you see in people?
Are you talking physically, emotionally? Could you elaborate your question? Sorry. Are you talking?
Yeah. Just on your previous answer, you said that you feel concerned about the people because you care about them, and you're seeing that things can be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm asking you, what do you currently see in the people there?
One very specific example. So I was in our Mexico office towards the end of January. One of the days there, one of the developers walked in and said, I left yesterday at 3 a.m. And one of the other developers that I was with laughingly joked, it's like, unless you're leaving at 7 a.m., you know, don't complain. And, you know, so it begged the question to ask, you know, how many people does this affect? You know, are all you guys experiencing this? And, you know, reluctantly, you know, they all shook their heads and, you know, asking how long has this been going on? You know, they've said weeks and they don't see an end in sight. So, yeah, that's one example.
And do you have other, I'm not asking you to tell them, but do you have any other examples that you can think about?
That's the most visceral that comes to mind. The other one that come to mind is when we kind of do a broad group type retrospective exercises. So when I go and visit the offices, we'll do like a start, stop, continue type exercise. And some of the feedback has been, from our perspective, quite damaging. We've had specific feedback says, you know, stop making us, or I guess for paraphrasing, stop dehumanizing us, stop badgering us. Comments been made like, if that manager was alone in the bathroom, he probably wouldn't come out alive.
Okay.
So it's like when I talk about the morale, the low morale, I mean, it's starting to turn ugly. Yeah.
And can you imagine a creative way on leveraging all these examples and find a way to show this to the senior manager rather than the issues that are raised on the retrospectives?
Yeah, we've just a couple of weeks ago, when one of the managers in our PMO group was visiting from India, we aggregated all this feedback, all the feedbacks from the retrospectives, all the data in terms of who was doing the retrospectives, how often they were doing it, what are the major pain points for each individual team that was coming out of it. And we presented all that data to each management group. And most of them were concerned, but not necessarily, I would say, concerned for the team, more concerned for their own reputation. A lot of them would become defensive and say, I don't know why my team feels this way. We try to do this, but we hear this from them. So yeah, there's a lot of back and forth going on.
Okay. And what do the senior manager care about? What do they really care about?
They care about making their deliveries. They're being held by their managers to deliver, X amount of features by the given deadline. And that's directly, tied into their performance review, their bonus, so on and so forth. So because, their managers have their foot on the pedal per se, those managers are putting their foot on their developers' necks to deliver.
Okay. And how can you link or translate the issues that you are seeing in the morale and in the human environment in something that management is already caring about?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's challenging. I don't have a good answer off the top of my head. Management has told me and told them that, this situation is temporary, that by our May compliance deadline, everything will get better after that. The teams view this as a farce, so do I. As more and more requests, as we continue to deliver features out, we're going to get feedback, and those feedbacks are going to turn into more user stories, and then we just get into this landslide of work. Not to mention that we do business in over 90 countries, and right now our compliance deadline affects one country, and more countries are asking for those same changes. So our backlog is just continuing to grow. Like I said, even though the managers are trying to sell themselves that this is going to end, they're trying to sell the teams that this is going to end, trying to sell myself and our PMO group that this is going to end, no one really believes it.
Okay. Let's suppose that our conversation finished right now. Did you see anything new during the time we've been talking about?
In terms of techniques, yeah, in the way that you asked the questions and what we kind of talked about earlier, and something that they know, keeping open-ended questions. I think in our initial meeting that I spoke about with the managers, we were more concerned about presenting our data to them and having them reflect on that. We didn't necessarily spend an adequate amount of time asking them questions about what they were feeling, or what it meant to them, or what they wanted to do about it, how they wanted to approach it. So yeah, if I had a time machine, I'd go back and do that a little bit differently. Moving forward, we'll see when I get the opportunity to do that again and do it differently.
Okay. And is there actually something different that you can do as a next step in order to move yourself, the situation next to a probable solution?
The current path that I've taken, so there's, as I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of the issues specific to Scrum and trying to do the proper Scrum ceremonies is challenging with the team size. So that's kind of what I've determined as being the root issue, and I've communicated it out as well. Fortunately, one group of the team's about 34 right now, heard the message, and they bought into what I was saying, what I was trying to sell. So they made the determination that they want to split into more manageable Scrum and Agile teams, become better co-located, and start to scale some of their efforts. So using that as a proof of concept, and hoping that we can get some quick and easy wins as we decompose that team, start doing planning the way it's supposed to be done, start doing estimating the way it's supposed to be done, start doing productive retrospectives and getting the teams to improve over time, and then presenting that data to the rest of the senior managers. Like you said, rather than just sharing it with them, getting their feedback and asking the right questions to help them better discover the better way of doing things.
Okay, and so what would be your next step for that?
So my next step with them is to train them on what it means to be agile, getting everybody on the same page. A lot of the Scrum terms are being used, but they're not being used correctly. Like their current daily stand-up meeting lasts an hour just because, you have to go through 34 people and trying to get them all to stay focused all the time is, challenging. So they've extended that. They're doing, I think, 4-week sprints and getting them to do 2-week sprints. So getting them trained on what the expectation is, what it means to be agile, and getting everybody on the same page, and getting the product manager, the scrum masters for those groups aligned, so that way the team has a smoother path to work towards. Okay.
When do you think you can do that?
Right now, all of them are in India, so they're going to be out there for 2 weeks. I was supposed to do the training last week before they left. Our team from Mexico flew into LA, so they were here. So it was a good time to try to do that, having everybody here. But unfortunately, that wasn't able to happen. Production issues and things like that, schedules didn't align. The Zoom tool is a great tool for this, so I definitely want to look into potentially using this for our distributed teams more. We're currently using WebEx, and not the greatest tool on the planet, especially compared to this. Still need to put that calendar. Ideally, probably about 2-3 weeks from now. Like I said, once the product manager and the dev manager kind of get back here to LA, I'll get a better idea of when we can carve out some time to do that.
Okay. So do you think that you're taking something valuable away from this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think a lot of our approach, specifically myself and from the PMO department, has always been telling rather than asking. So trying to take that slightly different approach and seeing if it works better with our senior management team.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. One reflection thing from me. So I've been in way more than 100 companies over so many years, and I've never seen any company being paid for being agile. So this translation thing into business results is absolutely crucial. When you want to convince anybody of agile being useful, make it visible that it's useful and tie it in with some results that are actually important for the business. Otherwise, even if people have best intentions and say, yeah, this is cool, we want to do this, etc., and you have all the buy-in you get, you have a crisis, and suddenly the important things are important again. So it falls down, and you get back to the old way because they know that works. So if you don't drive your agile transformation with the business results that are actually important to the senior management and to the shareholders and to everybody who has an influence on where the business goes, it's not going to succeed. So that translation is absolutely key.
So Olaf, question there. How would you recommend to kind of baseline that? So we have data on how the teams are currently performing.
Well, you had this metaphor of them having their foot on the pedal. If you use that metaphor and you say, yes, you are using the pedal, but there's also a brake, and you don't notice that the system has the handbrake pulled because it's just going at 10% of the potential speed because everybody is afraid, everybody is stressed, everybody is complaining, people are emotional beings, etc. So you can explain how the system can't run as fast as it could in the way that they are currently treating their people, for instance.
Got it. Great.
And then you said stuff is piling up. So they want to keep going fast. And if they want to keep going fast, they need to take care that the system is sustainable. And this current way is not sustainable because people will get sick and will leave and things like that.
John, I also like the metaphor of how 100% utilization is not actually what we're looking for. So if you think of like a highway when the highway is 100% utilized, you're in traffic. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I've effectively been able to use that too to help them, I don't know, just kind of see what they're doing. Because a lot of times this stuff sounds like fluff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they need to understand that there is actually a business impact and that it will cause them pain at some point. I think what I'm hearing you say is you're delivering so they don't feel any pain right now. And
Correct.
so you're trying to help them predict the pain because you're hearing it and you're stuck in the middle. And so if you can somehow help them see that, that 100% utilization is actually not what we're looking for.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. So we won't have time to address Melissa's young CEO issue now, but we did have a good experience of how a good coaching session is closed with asking for impact, asking for next steps, asking for are these next steps possible and when can you actually do them? And in the spirit of that, I would like to invite you into another small pairing session of 2 minutes where you can exchange what have you learned and what can you do with it after the session. Is that okay? And then we come back here, say goodbye, almost on time. So let me check, recreate.
That was, oh, okay.
Okay. Martin, you stay here. Two minutes starting now. So Martin, what did you learn from this conversation?
I think I learned that John has a lot more resources for handling this that maybe he initially thought about, and I think that the key there is about not handling the transformation as or agility as a end result, but as a means for something else.
Mm-hmm.
I would still, I know we don't have much time, but if I can start the conversation again, one thing that I would like to do different, would like to understand how is John looking at his own practice because of what is happening right now with this. So I would.
Yeah. I really liked how we got a really good conversation arc in 15 or at most 20 minutes. And it's really interesting in such a session. This is something that we can learn if we do this more often, is how to really distill a coaching conversation in something that goes like 10 minutes and really makes a difference. So my hunch at the beginning was asking about what do the managers want, because from what he shared, it seemed quite obvious that he hadn't thought about that before.
Mm-hmm.
So I was waiting for you to ask that question.
Good.
I'm asking them to come back. As people are coming back, those who are here already, do you want to share a learning, an insight, some feedback in a sentence or two?
For me, it was very important to see the kind of questions that you ask, and you didn't stop to ask the question on the first answer. I saw Martin asking, is there anything else there? I think is a very good technique. Sometimes we forget about it and we buy on the first question that we ask. For me, that one was very, very important, and I will take that from here. And I did like the way you conduct all the conversation. It was one of my first ones. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
I agree with Raquel. It's my first coaching sessions, and I like how the questions went. Each time we dig more, and the takeout as what the next step, when we can achieve this. So that's pretty well.
Okay, anyone else? Quick feedback, learning, takeaway, 1 or 2 sentences before we close.
I really like your code, which is storytelling is not coaching.
Thank you.
Are we going to have another one like this?
So there will be multiple calls. The current intention is, but we don't know how this experiment will develop, that different coaches offer different sessions in different formats. The Eventbrite page that I set up didn't work too well in terms of booking for different sessions. We need to figure out a better way for registrations. So that's already a learning. Martin, will we do another one like this?
Yeah, maybe. No, maybe by the end of next week. Yeah. And,
end of next week will be difficult for me, but maybe in 2 weeks.
Maybe in 2 weeks. Yeah, that would work.
I'm happy to send all of you an email as soon as we set it up so that you get a first chance to register.
Mm-hmm.
We have created a YouTube channel for the ScrumAlliance where we will post these videos. I will share this link to the YouTube channel so you will automatically also get access to all the other sessions that are run, at least when they are published afterwards. And I assume that very soon there will be some sort of sign-up thing on the ScrumAlliance site where you can sign up for events like this so that you can get automatically notified. This is part of the experiment. We're figuring out how to do this and building technology. And yeah, so all of the signing up and logistics thing was set up by us now and not by the ScrumAlliance because we are too fast for the organization to.
So, but one question I would like to make, Sean, is: are you okay if we publicly publish? Well, we publish this video publicly so everyone can see it.
Yes.
Are you feeling comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. If you have any other questions, you should all have our emails. Just ask us and get in touch. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or good night, depending on where you are. Kudos to the people in India and Bangladesh for coming into this call after midnight. I admire you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.